Hi everybody, I'm Brian McMaster. This is Proactive Spine. Let's start out with our spinal flossing. Reach up as high as you can. Side bend one time either way. Rotate one time either way. Extend, squat. Good. And then step to the side, turn your foot in, rotate your body in the opposite direction. Step back, step, turn your foot out, rotate your body in the opposite direction. It's a good one you can do in front of anybody and they'll only ask little funny questions like, do you have to go to the bathroom? This one's a little tougher to do in a crowd, but they're both really important. Try and find a window to do them every day. I suggest once an hour. It really helps getting that pattern in the nervous system. Interrupt what you're doing, bring yourself back to neutral, move yourself through 3 dimensions of movement, get the body thinking about 3-dimensional symmetry. Today we're going to talk about squats. Squats are really, really important. We do it all day long, every day, getting up and down from a seated position, bending, reaching, those type of things. Let's talk about some of the basic details and start breaking down how we can improve our squat a little bit. The basics: have your feet shoulder width apart, feet straight. I like curling the toes up to shift your body weight back onto the heels and balls of the toes so you're not forward and gripping the ground. Sometimes you can turn the feet out to have the normal Q angle of your legs and hip and pelvis. I think so often we're asymmetrical with that and one side turns out more than the other. I want us to, especially when we're not loading heavy, keep those feet as straight as we can, okay? And with feet shoulder width apart, looking at the squat from the side, I want you, a lot of times we know we need to bend at the hips, bring the hips back, keep the knees behind the toes. Lots of people will bend at the knees first, and they just need to question that pattern. It's usually hardwired in the nervous system. When you bend at the knees and they come in front of the toes, the heels will come up to help you balance, the knees will come out, that's fine coming out, but coming in front of your toes, there's a lot more load on the knee and the lower part of the thigh. Not good long term, especially when you're loading heavy. Important to bring the hips back, load these big muscles of the thigh, pelvis, and lower trunk. Take the load there and take a big demand off the knees. Keep the knees behind the toes, okay? And a lot of times a squat like that, we've got a lot of power, we can control a lot of things with these big muscles, but we're only thinking about the lower part of the pelvis. These thigh muscles attach to the lower part of the pelvis. What about the control from the trunk to the upper part of the pelvis? So if you put your arms up over your head and reach up as high as you can and squat down, you're going to have more interaction between the core, the lower part of the core, and the upper pelvis. Important because that can help you control right and left sides. A lot of times I see people leaning off to one side because they're side dominant. Okay, so reaching up high, getting those shoulder girdle muscles stretched out equally both sides and creating a pull on the upper part of the pelvis, really important. So here's a couple of details to think about. When you're reaching up high, pull the shoulders down. That usually has you work the shoulder blade retractor muscles and tighten up the paraspinal muscles at the back, and you'll arch your back. And if that's all you'll do, you'll come down and you'll arch your back a little bit too much and you'll forget about your stomach. So you want to counter that shoulder blade coming back and down with tightening the stomach and pulling the ribs down to the front of the pelvis, so that your lower back curve stays in neutral as you bend at the hip and you control the pelvis from above as well as below. And you can think about both sides. Now that's not all to the squat, but that's the basics, okay? Not that I want you to tighten your stomach and tighten your back only to control. A lot of times what you want to do is work on filling the abdominal cylinder. We'll talk more about that in the future using your breath. But for right now, shoulders down on the back, ribs down in the front, hips come back, knees stay behind the toes. You want the feet straight and you want to load both hips equally. And we'll start talking about how to undo something like one foot turning out more than the other and leaning off to one side more than the other. Those are extremely important to taking care of the hips, the lower limb, the pelvis, and lower back. Okay, so basics of a straight squat. We'll talk more about different squats tomorrow. Thanks. I'm Brian McMaster. This is Proactive Spine. I'll see you tomorrow.